Welcome back to Retro Wednesday at the Tiberium Hangar. This is Mike, and today I want to talk to you about my top 10 list of 2021 vintage toy pickups. And I'm going to go over this. I've done some reviews on most of the stuff that's on this list because it's the stuff I'm most excited about. So obviously that's what I'm going to review. But anyway, we're going to get into talking about this, and maybe it's a hint at some future videos I'm working on putting together for Retro Wednesday in 2022. We'll talk about this coming up. So, number 10 on my list is the Filmation Ghostbusters toy line. Now, obviously, Ghostbusters was big, and I was not really wanting to get into collecting vintage, real Ghostbusters. I went ahead and got the Walmart stuff. But for vintage, real Ghostbusters, these are very nice-looking figures. They look really good. They match the cartoon very well, and still relatively affordably priced. There's not that many of them, so collecting this wasn't terrible, except for the Ghostbusters Ghost Buggy. Now that thing was really a challenge to get, and I'm still not 100% complete with it, but I had to collect it on the cheap, on the download cheap. So anyway, this toy line is a whole lot of fun. Still trying to get a few parts, pieces for the Ghost Buggy, and parts for the figures, all that kind of stuff. I started collecting this wrong by buying whatever I could as cheap as I could, instead of buying stuff that was complete. At the end of the day, I probably should have just gone after complete, because it's really hard to get the parts and pieces on their own. So number 9 on the list, number 9 is Inspector Gadget. So I like Inspector Gadget as a kid. It was one of my favorite shows to watch when I was a kid, probably before I started even going to school. But with this Tiger toy line is a whole lot of fun. There is a transforming Gadget mobile, and it's fleshed out an entire toy line. A couple of bad guys, Penny Brain. But this year we also got the Blitzways version, and we've got another Penny, we got the Inspector guy there. So with all of this stuff going on, this is a great toy line, but back in 1983, it was a huge missed opportunity because all they did was release one 10-inch Inspector Gadget. How much fun is that when you don't have anyone really to battle? And I'll be talking more about this toy line coming up. Number 8 on my list is the Sectars. Well, more or less the toy line. Now, I've already done a video on the Sectars toy line, but the thing about this is the fact that I didn't have wings on my figures and, well, the small, I think it was Winged and the Night Flying Dargon. Plus, a lot of these were missing their accessories, and it was just kind of haphazard. When I started collecting this, it was as cheap as possible. What can I get cheap? And then I just kind of stopped for a while. Then I started back up trying to get some parts and pieces this year, and 2021 was very good for Sectars. So you got a lot of good stuff for Sectars, and I don't know if it had anything to do with Zika and their toy line, but still, the stuff came out of the woodwork this year. Really nice. Here's a close-up picture on the wings for Dargon and the Winged. So I'm kind of happy I finally got that knocked out, and it was kind of a challenge, but I actually made my own wings, and here are my own wings that I made. Well, I did pretty much a similar thing right here for all of the characters missing wings, but that was kind of a fun little project. But at the end of the day, I like having the originals. The originals do look a lot better. So number 7 on my list is the Mirage, and I gotta say that this vehicle, I bought it last year. I got a really good deal on it, and then I started noticing that, missing my parts was no longer any fun. So I more or less completed it, more or less, depending on how you look at complete on this thing. I mean, there are like little side piece in the back that I'm missing, but I don't really care so much. It looks pretty complete to me on the shelf. I enjoy it. This thing is just stupid expensive these days. Anything Silverhawks is just stupid expensive, but I had to have this ship because it just is that awesome. It is really cool, and as big as it looks, it's not really that big considering it has 5 canopies, 5 places for figures to get put in there. That is outstanding, and it's not overly massively huge. I like this thing. Glad I got it. Number 6 on my list this week, or this year, it's going to be this year, Dune. This is the LJN toy line, and I didn't really realize these figures were this big. I went along thinking these were like 3.75-inch figures. I never had any back in the day, and so this year I started looking at it and started picking them up, and then I realized I need to hurry up and get this stuff collected as quick as I can before the movie comes out. But it turns out the movie was not a massive phenomenon, and these haven't shot through the roof or anything, so it's not that big of a deal. But I did collect these on the cheap. I don't have all the weapons, and I wished I would have picked up the weapons now. But anyway, maybe I'll go back and try to do that some other time, but it's probably not financially feasible at this point. Dune shares a shelf with my very small but growing Clash of the Titans. So I don't know what I'd do if I had a Kraken, so I don't know. It's just kind of something fun to have and do and collect, but I got most of the stuff for pretty cheap from people that I know that were selling it all off, a piece here and a piece there, and I'm like, yeah, I guess I have enough to call it a collection. So number 5 on my list is Mad Max, and I did make a video, kind of a wish list video. I wish that NECA would make Mad Max or something like that, and people in the comments said Into Toys already made them, and they're never going to make Mad Max figures again as long as the person who owns the rights to it is alive, because he's no longer going to let toys get made on that toy line. So that's kind of strange or whatever. So I went after these because it's all that's really out there. But I do like them because they look like nice little statues that stand there. As for action figures, they're terrible. They are not fun to do anything with other than stand in the predetermined pose. And the quality's not great. I think I even broke one of them. So at the end of the day, yeah, just to stand there and pose, that's about all you'd need them for. So number 4 on my list is the Power Lords toy line, which I started this year, and it seems like it's pretty easy to collect. Stuff's not really that crazy expensive. Some of the second series or the later ones were a little bit harder to find, and they don't pop up quite as often. And I don't have 100% of this. I already did a video on this though, but I was kind of enjoying this toy line, so I was like, hey, let's go ahead and knock a video out. I think I'm missing a couple of parts to one of the figures and one of the vehicles, but all that stuff. But still, this year was a pretty good year to pick these up. They're still readily available. You can get almost all of these online now. In fact, I think you can get most of these online now cheaper than I paid for them earlier this year. So, fun toy line from 1982 or 1983, really early in the 80s, and they had great articulation. I did also have fun putting a display together, so that's a whole lot of fun, like building it, putting display, making it look good. I actually moved the display, then I moved it back. So number 4 on my list is Dreadnocks. Just I'm going to lump it all together, Dreadnocks. And I've been working on it pretty much all year as I see parts and pieces come up for the vehicles I need and whatever. So I did review the Thunder Machine and the Tricycle. I did not do the Swamp Fire yet because, well, there's not much to the Swamp Fire. That's like a 5-minute video. So I kind of lumped it in with one of the other ones. I don't know if I'd ever do a full-on Swamp Fire video. But the thing is that these look so cool. They're so much fun. And with the Dreadnocks, I really hope they do them in the G.I. Joe Classified line. But I am very, 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 very pleased how the display came out, because sometimes I have an idea like the waterfall and making it look like it was flowing all through into the swamp. And sometimes it doesn't work out. But this case, it actually did. So it was a lot of fun. I think about using this stuff in my Indiana Jones display. Indiana Jones didn't make the list because I'm still missing so much. So number 2 on my list is a Skybike launcher for Captain Power. And Captain Power is still kind of an obscure toy line, but this thing is so awesome that it just blows my mind how awesome this is. First off, you get 2 Skybikes with it, which I'll show a little more on that in a second. And you get tons of guns and artillery and firepower. And it's so simplistic, yet so cool looking, so different than anything else. Plus, it integrates that Blast Pack 1200, the jetpack that's on the back. That clips right in there. You got a figure stand in there. I did a review of this thing. You might want to check that review out if you're interested in this at all. This thing is a lot of fun. It's really cool. Sad thing is, it's hard to come by. Like, there's not very many out there available, and when they do pop up, they sell right away, and they're expensive and all that kind of stuff. I lucked out into a deal on this. Here's the bikes by themselves, and really, I mean, Mattel missed out on a huge opportunity selling these bikes by themselves for like $5.99 or something. Like, they would have sold like crazy because they are just really awesome, really cool, yet very simplistic and cheap to produce. But it was in the show too, so much in the show. They were flying these Skybikes a lot, whole lot of fun. So number 1 on my list is a Spiral Zone, and this is like the most underrated toy line of the 80s because it really is a cool toy line. But moreover than that, I really enjoyed watching the show, and every time I get into collecting a new toy line from the 80s, I try to watch as much of the media as I can to kind of, well, refresh myself on it. I don't remember watching Spiral Zone, the show, back in the day as a kid. I remember seeing the commercials. I remember seeing some of the stuff in the stores, but I never got it. I think I was apprehensive because the soft goods made them feel like Barbie dolls or something. I don't know. I wasn't into soft goods as a kid for any of my stuff. So nowadays, though, it's just so interesting, and it's kind of like next level, like you see with Mezco and some of the more expensive third-party figure makers. They make this stuff with soft goods, but looking at it, I'm still missing parts and pieces to my vehicles. It's kind of a pain in the butt getting parts for this, but it's still fun, and it's very rewarding when you finally find something you need. It's going to be a long, long marathon, not a sprint. So I hope you enjoyed looking at these pickups of 2021. I gotta say, I think my vintage collecting is going to slow way down in 2022 for a multitude of reasons, but more or less, I'm going to be looking for very specific parts and pieces versus entire toy lines. So that's going to change how I go about collecting and maybe focus a little bit more on the modern stuff. But for the most part, it's been real fun collecting all this vintage stuff, and I'm going to keep with the Retro Wednesday because I got quite a few things to talk about, to go over. So let me know what you think about this. Like, subscribe, Dreadnocks out.